What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Pod at the Palace. Curtis Wilkerson, Scotty Borderline here with you again, recording on this Wednesday morning. No commitments yet, but a few things have happened since we dropped our Tuesday episode, so we wanted to hop on and just kind of throw a few updates at the people. Scotty, how we doing this morning, bud?
Back in the bunker, brother.
Bunker.
What's the Sopranos update? You got to watch the dream test? Is that what it was?
Ooh, buddy, yeah,
One of the
yeah.
wildest episodes in the whole show.
That was crazy. I mean, it's not on Pine Barrens level, but that was nuts. I didn't know what the hell was going on at first, and then
Literally
it just kept
a
getting
fever
weirder
dream.
and weirder and weirder. Yeah, that was nuts. And so I think I'm coming up on the end of season 5, and things are getting
Yeah.
real dicey over there. And
This is
I'll
a
make it through 6
Sopranos
this
episode
weekend.
recap podcast now.
That's right. Yeah, that's 100% right. Yeah, I mean, I was so engulfed in that episode this morning, I just completely lost track of time. You know, I usually, if I go out on a walk or a jog or something, I'll have it playing. I'll try to get through an episode, and I was engulfed in it, man. It was kind of crazy.
I get it. Easy to get sidetracked with that stuff.
Yeah, man, no doubt about it. No doubt. Well, Scotty, we knew that this was going to happen. You know, when we started recording yesterday, we did it under the impression that it wouldn't be entirely surprising if DJ Wagner committed like right after we published. That hasn't happened yet. I still think it's going to happen. It's just a matter of when. But we did have, other bits of news that kind of, I don't know. I wouldn't say it diluted what we put out yesterday, but it kind of changed some things. So that's why we're here this morning to do a few updates. So we're going to do that. But I think the first thing that we wanted to talk about was Coach Cal. He was in Little Rock yesterday at the Razorback Road Show deal?
Yeah, it was at the hall. It was like a concert venue. I haven't been to it before, but yeah, it looked like there was a pretty nice crowd on hand to see him last night.
Yeah, I'll say the line was kind of wrapped outside the building there to get in, and I guess he spoke for what, half hour, maybe a little bit less. But the other part of it was the Central Arkansas folks in the media were able to get a short interview with him, a scrum before the event, and so that was pretty cool because we haven't been able to hear from him too much. So that was nice. Nothing super groundbreaking, I don't think, but there were a few highlights there that I thought we could touch on, maybe for the folks who weren't able to see it, or at least offer our takes on what he had to say. I liked, Scotty, that he kind of reiterated his understanding that you have to be older in today's game. And, he talked about the importance of getting a Nelly Davis and a Jonas Adu. He talked about his guys who were coming over from Kentucky and Thiero and Big Z, hinted at DJ Wagner. We'll talk about that in a moment. But I don't know. I just thought that was fascinating. Like you said, hey, we'll still recruit freshmen. We'll still get the young guys, but we got to get older. And he says over and over and over that 26-year-old men playing for Oakland, and their average age was 24. Tyler Hero has been in the league for 5 years. He's 24. And I think at least there's a level of awareness with him that might need to have a little bit of a tweak in the way he does things. We knew that he kind of had no choice this year with this situation. He couldn't load up on 7-8 freshmen. It just wasn't going to be possible for him. But it seems to me like it's a pretty good sign of things moving forward, that he might be a little more balanced between the transfers and the freshmen.
Yeah, and I think he felt really good, like even better about that freshman haul that he has after he got Nelly and Jonas Adu. Is just adding some, this is not new, but like just adding experienced guys who, like I've mentioned, have been around the block several times. Just makes your team tougher, makes it older, more experienced. And those are guys that can throw their arm around those freshmen and kind of shepherd them along if they need it. I mean, those kids may hit campus and, act like grown-ups, play like grown-ups right away, which would be even better. But if not, like, you got some veteran guys around them. I thought the Tyler Hero thing was pretty funny because Cal just one of these days he's going to hurt his back from like dropping names and picking them back up. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I went to go watch 3 of my guys, Shea and Kasean Wallace and PJ Washington, and then he's dropping Daniel Gafford's name, Isaiah Joe, Jay Will, and I thought it was funny in that scrum. I watched THV 11's video, and he was like, "Yeah, Jalen. I noticed that like if anything ever popped off, he was going to be the first one in there, trying to protect his guys. Like he recognizes all the talent on the floor from Kentucky and Arkansas. But I had a buddy there last night that was giving me live updates when Cal was on stage. Shout out to Evan. He also said that Cal said they met with Jerry Jones for the
Love
first
that.
time at the Star for like 3 hours, which is like the Cowboys, I guess, practice facility and where Jerry's office is. That's I would pay money to be a fly on the wall. A
Oh,
lot of money
brother.
to be in that conversation. But I think that's neat. And then I was told that a woman asked Cal about DJ Wagner. Obviously, he can't talk about him yet, but he did mention, players' dads playing for him, like the Arrow, Billy Richmond, and quote another player I can't say yet.
Yeah.
So that kind of sums it up. But yeah, I mean, I think the portal additions, especially, like Nelly and Adu, it does wonders in terms of just getting older, and then the two guys from Kentucky just help a lot with the continuity.
Yeah, for sure. I know a lot of people have questioned like what if things are so sure, if it feels like a lock with DJ Wagner, what's the holdup? I don't know. Who knows? Some people said maybe it's a graphic. I don't think it's that, but I don't know that there even necessarily has to be a holdup. I think people just assume that it's kids ready to commit and it just happens right away. There's no telling what it is, and just because it hasn't been publicly announced doesn't mean that it's not a thing, or that the
Yeah.
wheels aren't already in motion or
Yeah, and
whatever.
it's not a commandment that you have to
Yeah,
commit a couple days after your visit. Like that's
right.
not a thing. It
Yeah, and if you
happens a
think
lot,
about
but it's not a thing.
right, if you think about DJ Wagner's recruitment since he hit the portal, um, I mean, it was just very much under the radar. His visit to USC, you didn't hear too much about it. It was the same thing with Arkansas. You heard it was going to happen, and there just wasn't not too much info that came out. Afterwards, you got to there's pictures surfacing about him at Baum Walker with Cal or whatever. It's just been a quiet deal. So I get it. Everybody wants it to be official, and his conspiracy theories or whatever. But I'm really not worried about that one. But I agree. Hopefully, it's done sooner rather than later. It was interesting again to hear Cal just kind of keep doubling down on that 8 to 9 guys, and he was using, I guess, the number 8 a little bit more than maybe I'd like him to. I need that to be a 9 at least, Scotty. I know we talked about this yesterday. 9, dudes you can talk me into. Absolutely. And it doesn't even have to be a perfect world, but I think that gives you enough depth to work with, whatever. 8, you're just asking for trouble, in my opinion. So
Yeah, I get that.
um, hopefully they move on some of that stuff too. And I mean, obviously, I'd like to see him get. I don't care if it's a full allotment of dudes, 12 or 13. I don't need that, but just some insurance policies for me would be nice. But in terms of dudes, give me the 9. Come on, man.
Yeah, I mean, he could be playing possum on some of this stuff like
He
this.
is too.
I mean, he really could.
Undersell, over
Like,
deliver.
yeah, and Wagner would get you to 8, right? And then you feel good about 3 ball handlers and 3 big men, and then 2 wings. I don't know. I
Not
mean, 3
really.
wings, maybe
Yeah.
not really.
Yeah.
Um,
No
yeah,
shooters. No, I don't know. I
yeah,
don't know, man.
yeah. I feel like you maybe need a. I think you either need reinforcements after, like, assuming that you get Wagner. I think you need reinforcement in the front court. Maybe a guy that does something a little bit unique, relative to the other guys that you have there, or just Cam Christie. Just
Yeah, hey,
saying.
that works too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but like Cal has said that, even at his intro, he was like, we're gonna play the NBA draft process. That's here, and
mhm.
so playing it, and I'd be really surprised if they didn't get to 9. I just really would.
Yeah, I would too. I would too. It's a little more complicated now than it was this time yesterday, and we'll get to that in a moment. But um, before we do, just a couple other things from Cal's little shindig in Little Rock. I um I kind of like some of the things he said about the scheduling. I guess he was asked about Penny Hardaway, and I guess he was mentioning, we talked about it yesterday, wanting to get that Arkansas Memphis thing heated back up. But it was kind of interesting to hear some of the things Cal said. Like, it makes me wonder, like, did Eric Musselman do anything while he was here? I'm not entirely sure that he did, because he was like, well, I got here and I asked him to see the team, and there was no team. Then I went out and recruited 5 guys, so I had a team, and then I asked to see the schedule, and there was no schedule. Uh, I don't know if that's telling about something on the San Diego front, whether or not that's still going to be a thing or not.
Could
I
be,
guess
yeah.
we'll see. But I did like what he said. Hey, he's had calls from CBS and ESPN and others that want Arkansas to be part of some of these showcase events that he loves to do. That's exciting. He said then he's looking for home and homes. Great. That's another thing that we talked about. And so he didn't really tip his hand on the Memphis thing too much, but it seemed like something like that was kind of I don't know, like third string on his list of things that he's looking for there. But it sounds to me like he wants to have a pretty competitive schedule. I did find it interesting. He was also asked about the SEC, and he was talking about how tough it was. The league just keeps getting better and better. And he was talking about, finding a balance there in the non-conference, like not wanting to be too top heavy, but also wanting to make sure that the guys get enough exposure and get prepared to the point where they're ready for SEC play. So at least on the surface, it sounds like he's got full intentions of having a few, pretty marquee non-conference games. You love to see it.
Yeah, for sure. And you made a good point about the San Diego thing, because he's mentioned in the past, like having, like either like a true road game as part of a home and home series during a season, or like a one-off, like the CBS Sports Classic or the Champions Classic in Chicago, or whatever it is, like a showcase event,
Right.
um, in like a pro arena, because I think how, like, he wants his guys to be prepared for stuff like that, as opposed to, like, when in the NBA are you going to play like a back-to-back-to-back with like 12 or 13 hours between games? I think that's, and it's interesting. Like, we could have heard a lot less complaining from Eric the last few years at these MTEs or whatever about short turnarounds if he would have just tried to get into events like that. And then
Right.
you could maybe had just maybe another home game or two to kind of make up for it. But I like the way he thinks with these showcase events. He just wants, and it's great because it puts eyeballs on him, puts eyeballs on his program, puts eyeballs on his kids, top players. And then, if maybe somebody shows out, maybe their stock just shoots up overnight, So I would love to see the Memphis thing happen. Like I mentioned yesterday, I've got that story ready to fire off if something shakes with that. But yeah, I don't
Yeah.
have any doubt the schedule is going to be good. And he's right, the SEC is going to be a bear. Like, it is. Like, schools like Ole Miss even have done really, really well in the portal. Alabama got Big Cliff. Texas is,
They've
I
done
don't want
well.
to say, yeah, they've done well. They've got guys like T-Mark and others that are going to be tough. But he's right. But I'm interested to see what that non-con is going to look like, and maybe we'll get some answers here pretty soon. I think it's about that time of the year where that starts to happen.
Yeah. And I know Cal's obviously a guy who's capable of multitasking, and he's still doing that now with the roster and everything else that he's got going on. But he seems like a dude who goes all in on attacking maybe one project at a time. It's kind of what he was saying, like, okay, let me go get a roster. And he got most of that. Now he's putting the finishing touches on it. And then it was, now let me put together this schedule. And so it seems like he's just kind of checking off that to-do list. So I think you're right. We're probably going to start hearing about some things. I would imagine we'll be getting those John Rothstein, schedule nugget tweets coming out that,
Be really good.
oh,
I'm
Arkansas is
excited.
set to meet so-and-so at whatever arena for a neutral site game on. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, same here. It was interesting, the Ways to Win pod that he does with Craig Robinson, the old Oregon State coach.
Mhm.
I was like, I'm keeping a list of every call I'm making and every meeting I'm having on this tablet, just so he can kind of look back at the end of the day and look at all the stuff that he got done. Because, mentally, And I understand this to a degree. Sometimes when I feel like I haven't done anything in a day, I'll either look at our website and see what I wrote, or go back and listen to our podcast. And just mentally, you want to feel like you're getting stuff done.
Sure.
I mean, he's, from the sounds of it, he doesn't have his office organized at this point. He said he doesn't have like a letter opener or a stapler or
Right.
anything like that. He's just, like you mentioned, he's kind of a one project at a time. And it's good that it's probably very overwhelming, incredibly overwhelming to take over a new program, especially one that has no roster and allegedly no schedule, no staff, all that. But just to be able to kind of compartmentalize some things, get one thing done at a time. And I think that tells me right there that he's settling in fine, to me. And he'll get everything handled. I have no doubt about it.
Well, now he's just got to be able to get some sleep, since they got him staying over there by Tin Roof, which we nailed it. Last week at the show, when we found out that he was staying somewhere in a condo near Dixon for the
Yeah.
for the time being. Probably until the wife gets moved down, they get the home in Lexington situated, whatever. But that was pretty funny. He was like, "You ever have to sleep with earplugs?" But Liz, like we said, hey, it's if you want to come see what all the fuss is about, 4 to 6 on Thursday. Just pull up. There will be a seat for you. You can come and just say whatever you want. We'll MC it for him. So, oh man,
Absolutely. I was
okay,
wondering if he was in that building across the street, where the
yeah,
old Waffle House used to be, or if he was in the spot like back behind. You know what I mean? Like, I
yeah,
wasn't sure. Like, I think last week we were like all in on the building across the street, but he might be. He might actually be back behind Tin Roof.
right, yeah. I mean, he's very much in the location, in the vicinity. So
We
maybe
can
we'll see
find
him
out. All he's
roaming
got to do
around.
is show up. We can find out for sure.
Yeah, exactly. It's no big deal. Man of the people, come out and see us. Come hang out. We'd love that. Uh, and then from here, I guess we got to talk about the Kasean Pryor stuff. And so we're going to get to that. But before we do, I just want to take a quick moment to tell you guys about our friends over at Signature Bank. Signature is a privately held boutique bank that's redefining the banking experience in our region. They blend the warmth and familiarity of a community bank with the sophistication of a commercial bank and the expertise of private banking to deliver unmatched levels of service. If you're looking for reasons to bank with Signature, there's plenty of them. They're personally invested, business-minded, community-focused, right-sized, and forward-thinking. Make sure you check out one of their Arkansas locations or visit the website www.signature.bank to learn more. Kasean Pryor burned us, buddy. Come on now.
Yeah, that was a tough one.
Yeah,
Pretty tough.
it's interesting. Yesterday we spent a decent amount of time talking about Arkansas's pursuit of Kasean Pryor out of South Florida. I'm glad that we approached it with the honesty and transparency that we did, which was, pretty much everyone you talk to seems like a lot of that smoke was blowing towards Arkansas. You heard some St. John's, but you liked the momentum that the Razorbacks were carrying there. But you just had a little bit of an uneasy feeling about it, and it was a bit of a frustrating recruitment for a dude who's so, I don't know. He enjoys the spotlight of the cryptic tweets, and he likes the attention
Absolutely.
that comes along with it. But then his recruitment itself has been so quiet. He wasn't taking visits. And so you weren't exactly sure where it was headed. And then lo and behold, we finished the episode, and a couple hours later, you start hearing that Louisville has come through and dropped a 7-figure bag. And then about 30 minutes later, boom, pops, and he's committed and off to play for Pat Kelsey. Great pickup for Louisville. First of all, I will say I think two things can be true. And tell me what you think about this. One, I don't blame Arkansas for not going 7 figures on Kasean Pryor in NIL. Two, I am disappointed that Arkansas didn't get him, because I do think he would have been an excellent fit. What I will say, though, is I'm very confident in this too. If Kasean Pryor was top priority on John Calipari's list, if he was the number one name on Cal's hot board, they would have matched or exceeded Louisville's offer and gotten it done. So
Yeah.
connect the dots there on what that might mean.
Yeah.
That's just kind of where I'm at with it. They're not gonna lose out to anybody for an NIL bidding war if that person is top priority. And that's one thing we said yesterday. We're not entirely sure where we know that there was interest from Pryor. We know that there was reciprocal interest from Arkansas, but we weren't 100% sure where he fell on the pecking order. And that's not me saying that Arkansas, moved on from him or told him to take a hike or whatever. But if you're not the number one target, they're not going to get into a bidding war for you. They'll just move on to the next guy, I think is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. And I heard last night when Cal was on stage, they maybe threw some shade for the bag chasing last night. Cal said 73% of his players get drafted and get second contracts, and if you're coming just for NIL, you can't see the big picture. So maybe
There
it's
you
like
go.
it's a chase a bag now because maybe you don't have one coming later type of deal. Maybe that's kind of how I read it, but it's tough, man. I had it hurt my heart a little bit this morning. I went to our dashboard where we do stories, and I deleted the commit story, deleted the commit analysis. I was excited about those,
Yeah.
because I really liked Pryor's game, but I do
Me too.
wholeheartedly agree with what you were saying. I think sometimes we can maybe get so swept up in how much we like a guy, like the staff might does not feel that way. Like they really might not, and they may just be putting a premium on another guy, maybe another position of need. Maybe it's a shooter. Maybe you go
Sure.
guard shooter and close this thing out, and you feel, decent to pretty good about where your front court is, and what you've got there as is. So
Yeah.
it's interesting. Like Pryor, I think Pryor's a good player. Then again, we've only seen it for a year, and it was in the AAC. So I think he's got a lot to prove. I was starting, honestly, to get a little bit turned off just at the thought of Kasean Pryor, just based on, like, I showed you his timeline of tweets
Oh
yesterday,
my goodness,
and
man. Yeah.
it's just like a whole lot, like 9 tweets, and there's like no substance to any of it. It's just kind of it felt like attention seeking, and I
Yes.
feel like attention seekers are bag seekers. So,
Facts.
um,
Yeah. No doubt about it.
oh well.
Yeah. So my feelings were hurt initially. Um, from a fit standpoint, I really do, and I'll always stand by it. I think he would have been a great fit, his game,
Yeah,
but I'm also not the expert, and so it is what it is. He moved on to Louisville. Good job by Pat Kelsey. I've heard that they're making a big push for Ugana Onyenso, the former Kentucky big man now. So you get an Onyenso and Pryor front court with some of the things they've done in the backcourt, and Pat Kelsey might have himself a pretty decent team at Louisville, especially given where they were the last couple years. So they're doing
yeah,
good work. But I think the key thing here is even though it's a little bit frustrating or disappointing from a Razorback fan perspective, the Hogs are going to be fine. And the question now becomes, where does Cal pivot, if it even really is a pivot? I don't know. But with Pryor off the board. And so I went through last night, and I know we were exchanging some messages, and to kind of get back to that conversation about 8 or 9 guys, we're operating under the assumption that DJ Wagner is the 8th guy, and that also they've got enough sense to get a 9th dude. So,
yeah,
but if you look at it, it needs to be a dude. I mean, Cal. He very much seems like he's not going to be the take a guy just to have a guy dude anymore. And so we'll see if he winds up doing some insurance policies or whatever. But in terms of that 9th man being an impact guy, and what I mean by impact is starter level or big minute, like somebody who's worthy of being in, that top 9 with the type of roster that Arkansas is going to have. And there's about a dozen guys, honestly, out there right now, in my opinion, who kind of fit that mold, who would be takes for me if that's exactly what I'm looking for.
yeah,
Um, and so I thought maybe we could roll through those guys so people could just have a pretty decent understanding of just maybe who to keep an eye on moving forward here, because I would be surprised if it's the diamond in the rough or the needle in the haystack, whatever, under the radar guy, unless they go pull somebody from overseas or something that's unforeseen. But as far as the portal is concerned, I think it breaks down into 2 different categories, which is the stay or pro guys, some of them whom we talked about yesterday, and the other big fish that are in the portal that aren't exploring the draft process or aren't in the combine or whatever. So let's talk about the combine guys first, Scotty, and just kind of, I don't know, like maybe what we think about him as a player, how they would fit, and then maybe where we think, and we don't know for sure on all these dudes, but where they are in the process. The first one's got to be Coleman Hawkins, I think. We did the segment last week of Kasean Pryor or Coleman Hawkins because those are kind of the two where the most smoke was for Arkansas. Coleman Hawkins, a dude, I mean, we talk about Kasean Pryor's attention seeking or his diva behavior. Coleman Hawkins has some of that to him as well.
Yeah,
But I got to
absolutely.
admit, he gets on my nerves a little bit less than Pryor was towards the end of this. So, there have been some, and we talked about it, like there have been some motor concerns, some motivation concerns with Hawkins in the past. I do think that this past season at Illinois maybe went a long way towards erasing some of that. And in fairness to him, and it just wasn't my personal observations. I mean, these are things that he said himself at the NCAA tournament, and
Yeah.
people who've covered his career had talked about that as well. But boy, he really had just a hell of a season with Illinois and helped lead those guys to the Elite Eight. If you're looking for a guy who's like Pryor in terms of what he brings to the table and the versatility and the fit, I don't know that there's a better option out there right now than what Coleman Hawkins could bring.
Yeah, there's no doubt. And I think you look at Pryor's tape, he's fairly fluid for a guy his size, 6'10", 210. I don't know that you're going to find a four-man more fluid than Hawkins.
Yeah,
Like it's pretty crazy. He can run the floor. He can, handle and ball screens. He can spot up and shoot. He can rebound, block shots, defend. Like he's he's very switchable defender. So there's a lot of versatility on both sides of the ball, both ends of the floor. I think he'd be a dynamite fit. I think, and we mentioned it, I think, when we were having that Pryor Hawkins debate, who seems like the more Cal type of guy. I mean, and I think
yeah,
hands down, it was Coleman Hawkins, right? Like we
sure.
both like Pryor, maybe a little bit more than Hawkins, but Hawkins seems like more of a Cal guy. Um, I mean, he's got pro interest, or it seems that way anyway.
Mhm.
And I don't know, man. Like I think I don't think you can go wrong with like a second or third option type of guy on a Big Ten championship team. Like
Yeah,
that experience kind of speaks for itself. And he did, after a couple seasons of just kind of being the same player, he took that next step last year for Illinois, and they had a hell of a run, man.
yeah,
He was a
for
big part
sure.
of it. I really like him. He'd be an awesome fit.
Right. And he, you know, sounded very much like his first option or his goal was, NBA and starting his pro career, which is exactly what you should say when you're at the combine being interviewed for these things.
Right.
And so I think people get a little bit too caught up in that sometimes, like, oh, he sounds like he's all in for the draft. Well, yeah, of course he is. He's at the combine. Like you have to be if you want general managers to be interested in you. But he had some interesting comments yesterday about just being, I guess, wanting a guarantee, like a guaranteed contract kind of on the table. You know how it works with some of those promises you get for the draft and everything like that. Um, but I think you have to look at it from a standpoint of he doesn't appear on all the draft boards. The ones that he does, it's kind of mid at best, but usually late second round. Is he a guy that is going to be real interested in a two-way deal? What would that look like? And then I understand the point of your clock ticking. He's already an older player, so I think you got to maximize your value. So for me, I'd probably be looking at it going, okay, I want to roam back and forth from the G League and maybe get up and down and make less money than I would competing for a championship at a college. With that kind of NIL package that he's going to get. And he said, in fairness to him, that he didn't want to have the label of being the highest paid college player, whatever he came back. He's like, I don't want that. I don't want that pressure. I don't want that label, even
That's
though
a
he
lot of
tweeted
hat.
about it. Yeah. But he would be a guy who would command buku money and probably more than he would make initially in the league. So it's going to
Yeah.
be fascinating to see what he does. Looking at the box score from yesterday's combine scrimmage, he played 16 minutes. He had 7 points and a rebound, 3 of 5 from the field. He hit a three. Uh, I haven't even looked at the highlights or anything yet, but kind of a modest performance there. If he does decide to come back to college, it sounds like Arkansas and North Carolina are kind of the two heavyweights that are going to be throwing punches to see which one can land him. It seemed like he almost ruled out any opportunity for a return to Illinois, just saying, hey, they've already kind of built their roster. It wouldn't be fair for those guys for me to go back, which I actually respect that take. But I don't know if it would be I think there are similar sells for Carolina or Arkansas. So I just wonder if it becomes a
bidding
highest
war.
bid win kind of thing. And I like Arkansas's chances if that happens, if it were to happen.
Yeah, for sure.
Do we agree that he's the best fit of what's left, or the best available, at least, in terms
Yeah,
of overall talent and what he brings to the table?
yeah, I think so. Especially like in the front court at this
Mhm.
point. Let me look. I've got the on three pulled up. I mean, it's him or JT Toppin,
Yeah.
right? But
Yeah.
Toppin's not that, like, I think he can develop or work on a jump shot. Maybe he can, become a little bit more reliable with that. But I think the thing
Right.
that you like with Toppin the most is like his motor, rebounding, getting on the glass, defending, that kind of stuff.
He's a madman. He also
Yeah,
went
they're
and
just
pulled down a
different
double double
players.
yesterday in those
Yeah,
scrimmages.
dude.
It's
Yeah, that's tough. That's really tough to do.
yeah.
But yeah, they're just different players. But I
Mhm.
mean, I don't think you can't really go wrong with either one of them. But I think best fits Hawkins for sure.
Yeah. Ideally, whether it's at that 4 position or, another wing or whatever, ideally, I think it would be someone it's got some proven shooting to him. So I think you got a really good point there with Toppin, who's a hell of a player in his own right. But yeah, Hawkins, nice there. One that I want to throw at you, we talked about it a little bit yesterday. I'm becoming more and more enamored with the idea of Arthur Kaluma. And I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I'm overhyping it a little bit.
No, I get it. I
He's
get it.
he's coming off he's coming off a hell of a year at
Mhm.
Kansas State after he transferred. 14 points, 7 boards per game, shot at a career best 35% from 3. He made 51 of them, so there's good volume there. He's 6'7", 220, 25 pounds. He's got some versatility. Like, you can play him at the 3. He's probably best served as like a smaller 4, whatever.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. Like, I like the fit there. He's got a history with Cal, who pursued him pretty hard out of the portal last year. But he is, man, he's like a high ceiling, low floor kind of guy. I mean, when he's at his best, he's an all SEC kind of player if you get him. But his inconsistencies, I think, is what has driven people nuts in the past. He's turnover prone, maybe tries to do too much or operate outside of his skill set. So he'd need to reel it in a little bit. But he's a hell of a talent. I actually like the potential fit a lot.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he could step out and shoot the three. I think he's probably a good enough rebounder. And with a guy that's 6'7" and 225, like, that just kind of tells you right there he's got a good frame,
Mhm.
and there's a lot of potential there for him to be, a maybe a I don't want to say a lockdown defender, but a guy that you can rely on to try to take away one of the arms or the hands of, an opposing team if they, you know I think Adu Thiero can do some of that too. Just a bigger body, different type of
Yeah.
swing man. But I think Kaluma's got the potential there. I like him as a shooter. I mean, he was almost 36% in Big 12 play from deep last year on really good volume. It was on 90 attempts. Um, Draws fouls, gets on the glass a little bit. I think that's what you need. I think if you could find a combination of shooting and rebounding, sprinkle in some defensive capabilities there, I think you got a winner. But I think that those are the boxes that you need to maybe check with that last guy that could play a 3 or 4, but maybe a 4 specifically.
Yeah, for sure. I would say Kaluma is fairly high on my board, actually very high on my board of potential candidates there. Another one, and we talked about him a little bit initially, and I think we just kind of brushed it off from a sense of, yeah, this dude's probably going to go pro, but I don't know that that's an absolute given at this point.
Trevor
By the
Brazile.
way, oh God, hey, he had some nice moments in the scrimmage yesterday. Did you see that putback dunk?
I did not, but
Man, he had a
I do not doubt that happened.
he had
He
a,
can be
a
freaky
nasty one.
athletic, man.
Yeah, he had a nasty putback dunk. Kaluma, by the way, was at the G League Ignite or the G League Combine thing, and not the NBA Draft Combine. So I don't know that he's a draft pick. Maybe he might be a UFA candidate there. So
Yeah, I don't think so.
and so he might be a guy who would benefit from coming back for another year. Um, but Jalen Wells out of Washington State. Um, I think we were really excited right away when he hit the portal, and then we were just like, yeah, this dude's going to the league. But I don't know, like he's hit or miss on some draft boards too, and he's at the combine now as well. And I think he actually got a call up from the G League thing, if I'm remembering correctly. But this dude is a nice piece from Washington State, 6'8". He's kind of got that Adute the Arrow size to him. Maybe not quite as big. Was he 205, 210? But this is a dude that can he's got an absolute strap on him. And so if you're looking for someone who can really, really stretch the floor and give you a boost from perimeter shooting standpoint, this is probably your guy. Percentage, volume, all the above. He's got a strap.
Yeah, 40+%. And I think the thing that I like about him the most is, and we talked about it a little bit with Kaluma maybe in the past, he can be a guy that just, Kaluma, I'm talking about, can be a guy that just coughs it up way too much. This
Yeah.
Jalen Wells kid, like he was 30th in the country in turnover rate. Like
Oh,
only
wow.
7% of the possessions that he was involved in offensively resulted in a turnover. So I mean that's really good. That tells me he knows his role is to either get a shot up or get rid of it. And then defensively, he's not on the glass that much. Yeah, big time shooter though.
Yeah, absolutely. That would be a fun one if they were able to pull that off. And he's also a guy at his size that you got some versatility with. You could play him at multiple positions there. So it'd be interesting to see what he ultimately decides. He would be another guy in the same vein, a similar vein, I think, to Hawkins, who would command a pretty hefty NIL package if he decides to return. Other guys in the draft process right now, and we don't have to go too in depth in some of them. Cam Christie, who we've talked about, he is not doing the scrimmages. Is that right? Which is
I'm not,
usually
I'm not sure
which
about
is
that.
usually an indication that you're happy with where you're at in
Yeah,
the draft pecking order. So I would be surprised if he pulls out of the draft, but if he does, obviously he would zoom to the top of that list. I know he's at the top of yours for sure.
yeah. There's no doubt. I just don't think like if he's getting like late first round, especially, or early second round, I think there's. I think there's he. I mean, if he's probably got like a guarantee of some sort.
Yeah.
I think a team would be crazy to not take him this year. Just take a flyer on. If it doesn't work out, I think the kid's going to have a career shooting the ball professionally for sure. And this is the draft to do it. If you're a freshman like him, I think he's a pipe dream to come back
Yeah.
to school. I think he's way too talented.
Yeah, I'm with you. Jameer Watkins, he's almost like a poor man's Jalen Wells, I guess. But a dude who played at VCU for a couple years, but he really blossomed last season at Florida State. A guy who was rumored to be a silent commit at Arkansas out of the portal last year, Caleb Battle's buddy. But he's kind of got the frame to him, 6'7", 210, 215, can stretch the floor from three a little bit. He's actually a little bit higher on some of the draft boards. I've seen him in the low 40s on some of those, so he might be a dude who's just ready to go do his thing. But he didn't do much in his scrimmage yesterday. As I'm looking at it here, he was 0 of 2 from the field, 2 of 4 from the free throw line, had a turnover and assist. So just a kind of a less than stellar performance there. But those scrimmages don't tell all.
Sure.
But he would be an interesting piece maybe to keep an eye on if he comes back. Jackson Robinson, we've talked about that. I don't remember what he did yesterday in the scrimmages. Let me look at this box score real quick and see if I can find.
He knocked down a couple threes. That vaguely feel like I remember that.
I think he may have. Yeah, let's see. He was 3 of 9 from the floor, but 2 of 5 from three. Was
That's
Jackson
Jackson
Robinson
Robinson right
yesterday?
there.
That's about right. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
about right. And it's like, yeah, I really don't know. Like, I wouldn't hate it if they were to get Jackson Robinson, but I think obviously Kentucky's enamored with that. It sounds like Kansas is just looking for everybody who looks exactly like Jackson Robinson to come play on their team. I mean, him, AJ Storr, the kid from Bama, what's his name? The guard.
Oh, Rylan Griffin.
Yeah, like they just keep getting all these lengthy wings who can come in there and knock down some threes. But
Yeah.
and
Scared
so we'll
Riley
see.
Kugel off.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
I
So
think
we'll
if
see if
you're
anything heats
Arkansas
up
though,
there,
like
but I don't
the
know.
reason the reason that I've always kind of been like on Jackson Robinson is I think with like if you get DJ Wagner, I think the next guy, if you're getting another one, he needs to be a multi-tool guy instead of
Yes,
maybe just a special like a 3-point specialist or something, unless you feel just like absolutely great and locked up, like you're locked up in the front court. I just think it's got to be a guy that can give you shooting and rebounding or shooting and defense or preferably all three of those things. But
sure. Yeah,
that's why
yeah,
I'm
no doubt. The last combine guy is Wooga Poplar out of Miami, and to me, if you're getting DJ Wagner, I just almost say Poplar's not going to be a thing. It would just seem a little bit, I don't know, like your backcourt would be getting crowded at that point
right.
unless you feel like you're going to slide him down to the 3 or something. And I don't know. I don't necessarily really see it. Villanova picking up some steam there. Kentucky's been recruiting him as well. I like the idea of it. If you were willing to play some more small ball, maybe I don't know, but I like Wooga Poplar as a player. I think he'd be a big asset. I don't necessarily see it if you're locking down Wagner. Maybe I'm crazy, or maybe I'm overthinking it.
No, I think you're spot on. I think you might be approaching at that point like the almost too many mouths to feed, unless, like you mentioned, you play super small. But then again, you'd be taking off the floor one of the big guys that you're really really glad that you have. And I don't, unless that's a way that Cal's going to combat having 9. You know,
Yeah,
some one of the bigs gets in foul trouble. You play
go
one and
small.
you go really small.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess that could be a thing. So we'll see. Other guys who are just kind of in the portal and they haven't been in the combine or anything like that. AJ Hogard out of Michigan State. I just, again, like if you get Wagner, I don't see that happening. But if for some reason that were to go south, I think that would be, him and Hogard and Poplar would probably be guys where they would really ramp up their pursuit.
For sure.
But again, I think it's just a matter of time with DJ. Dylan Mitchell, a guy that we haven't talked about a little, lately, but there was a little bit of smoke there with Arkansas early on. I know he's visited Miami. I think St. John's has been a school that's making a push there for him. He's a former McDonald's All-American. We know Cal likes those guys. Good player for 2 years at Texas. Super athletic, super efficient around the rim, versatile defender, can't shoot. I think it pretty
Yeah.
much sums it up with Dylan Mitchell.
Get out and run, maybe block some shots, rebound.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yep.
that's multi-tool. It's just maybe you would like to. I think gosh, dude, I can't help but think that there needs to be, maybe some additional shooting, but in that front line. But maybe Cal's just like, Zeke can do it. And word on the street maybe is that Jonas Adu wants to shoot more.
Yeah.
He wants to shoot more threes and maybe extend that mid-range jumper, a step back or two.
Yeah. Word elsewhere on the streets that Thiero is going to shoot 45% from 3 this year. So, oh man.
20
Just 3.
attempts.
Yeah, exactly. On 20 attempts. 3 other guys here that we want to get into. A chore.
We got it right that time.
Okay.
I like
Out
him.
of Samford, yeah, we love him, man. He was on the original, the OG big board. He's got the size, man. Out of Samford, 6'9", 227 pounds. Uh, just a kind of a double machine type of dude, and also a guy who can step out and knock down some threes
Can.
at a pretty good clip there. Has visited Auburn. There's some, I don't know, wondering if he can get into school there. I don't know if it's a credits transferring thing or whatever. Kansas State, another school that's been involved. Haven't really heard anything on the Arkansas front there, but if you're looking for a guy, I mean, sign
That
me up.
multi-tool guy, yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
That seems like it's him. I remember a couple weeks ago when we found out about that Auburn visit, and I think we both like threw up in our mouths at the thought of that.
yeah.
Like
Him
they
and
got JP,
Broom would be.
like they'd gotten JP Pegues, they got Broom back, and then they get a chore. I was gonna be sick,
Yeah,
legitimately.
that would be nasty work on Bruce Pearl's part if he was able to pull that off. Although I'm I could be tripping. I thought I saw, maybe it was yesterday, that Dylan Mitchell's visiting Auburn. I'm almost positive I saw that. So it seems like they're trying to make an addition there. We'll see
Yeah,
if Arkansas gets involved with either one of those dudes. A guy that I like, that we both like, and I don't think he's a superstar, but I definitely think he's a dude that could really help you and is probably underrated, is Vin Allen Lubin
100%, dude.
out
Yeah,
of Vanderbilt. And maybe it's just because we watched him, you know, work Mekhi Mitchell like a pair of, yeah. I mean, he was giving that man the business every time we saw Arkansas and Vanderbilt play.
yeah.
Uh, but I think he's got the type of versatility and the athleticism. Like, he moves really well for his size. He's
Mhm.
quick, really attacks the glass, and I think there could be more volume there from three potentially. I don't know that for sure. But North Carolina's been all over him. But they're also kind of in the Coleman Hawkins sweepstakes. They're also in the Uganda Onyenso sweepstakes.
Who
Like,
is
I don't
North
know.
Carolina not all over?
Yeah, but and then they're not getting anyone, which is
Right.
is kind of the weirdest deal about it. They have to get one of these forwards. I wonder who it's going to wind up being. It sounded like it was going to be Lubin for a while there, and I think he was scheduled to visit. I don't know if that's still happening now. It seems like maybe that's cooled off a little bit. So I don't know what's going to wind up happening there. But
They
if
may
you're
be getting on Yenso because Big Cliff went to Bama, and I think Onyenso was maybe looking at Bama until Big Cliff went to Bama.
right,
So maybe Carolina winds up with Onyenso, and maybe that frees up Van Allen Lubin to head to Northwest Arkansas. We'll see.
yeah, I would need to go and look and see how he did against Kentucky in the games that they played this past year. But I think he would be a nice piece, and I think he'd be a guy too who would be accepting of, you know, a role there. And I don't know. I actually think Lubin would be a pretty good fit overall. So I'd be interested to see if Arkansas could maybe start kicking the tires there if they need to. Um, the
Right.
last guy, I don't know if we've talked about him at all. I know you and I have, but what are your thoughts on Cedric Coward?
Shooter.
Shooter, shooter.
Really shoot it. Yeah.
Yeah,
I vaguely remember looking him up not too long ago. Was he is it Eastern Washington, or am I thinking
he's
about somebody else?
Cedric Coward is Eastern Washington. He's 6'6", 206 pounds. He averaged 15.4 points, 6.7 boards. So he's a big time rebounder
Yeah.
at his position there on the wing. He shot 56.5% from the field. That is impressive stuff from a wing.
He's
And
almost
then
68% on twos.
yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I mean, he shot 56.5% from the field, and that's while shooting 133 threes on the year. And he's almost 90% from the free throw line. So how this dude has flown so under the radar, I just don't know. But he has, and I think I've heard Washington State, which would make sense. I mean, if he's at Eastern Washington right now, but I don't know. Like, it seems like he could maybe solve some shooting problems there for you. And it looks like there's quite a bit more to his game. He's an efficient player. So
No
I
doubt.
don't
I
know.
mean, yeah, I see a steal percentage there, one of the best in the country, like true shooting percentage, top 15 in the country. Um, I mean, I'm just looking at like double doubles with um, points and rebounds, and it's not like he's a black hole. I see like some, 3, 4, 5 assist type games. Can block a shot or two for you. I mean, I think he's like really good swingman size, 6'6", 205. I think he's got exactly what
Yeah.
you want.
Yeah. Yeah. So that kind of it's an interesting player, man, for sure. And I haven't heard that much about him. So, I don't know, might be one to keep an eye on, maybe a little bit further down the list. But as you can tell, because we just spent the last 20 minutes on it, for those, concerned or are freaking out, which is natural if Arkansas misses on a guy or don't get a guy that you want or thought they were going to get, whatever. There's a lot of really good options that are still out there. And assuming you're getting Wagner, thinking that you could land, one of these 12, 13 guys that we just talked about, not far-fetched at all. So
Exactly.
a lot of good fits there, guys who, not just good players, but dudes who could be assets for you. If you're looking for more shooting, there are shooters. If you're looking for fours or swingmen, there's plenty of those. So a lot of options still out there. The good thing is for us, with Pryor going to Louisville, it's just a little bit more drama and it drags it out more. So we get to continue talking about
We
this.
get to keep doing Pot at the Palace episodes multiple times a week.
Yeah, man, that's exactly right. So
It's good.
that was good. It was good.
Yeah, good to do one of these back-to-back days. I missed doing it. 4 days without one was way too long.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And so we'll see. It's Wednesday. We'll see what the rest of the week holds. If nothing's popped on the Wagner front by Friday, we'll probably do this again. Maybe we'll go live and talk about some stuff and see how the people are feeling. But yeah, man, it's all starting to come together a little bit. Still some intrigue and some interest. And the further along you get into May and into the summer, the more you like that. And then I guess not this weekend, but next we'll be hitting the road and going and watching some 2025 five stars play. That'll be a good time. So
yeah, sounds good to me, brother.
Cool, man. Anything else before we get out of here?
I don't think so. You and Ellis doing 6-pack this week?
Yeah. Yep.
I'm excited
tomorrow,
for that.
Tomorrow or Friday. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how the day goes tomorrow.
Locked
yeah.
in.
We got a lot to talk about on the 6-pack. There's there's a lot of wild stuff going on in this world right now, with gas pumps and, and everything else. So
yeah, that's some of the most out of pocket stuff I've ever seen in my life.
It's wild, man. And then we're also going to do a Pot of That Nature, our football show. We decided to move that to tomorrow because we're going to have, obviously, this basketball pod's going out now, which is late morning on Wednesday. Ellis is going to do his bombastic baseball pod this afternoon. And obviously we got the John Neighbor show. So we want to keep the flow of content going throughout the course of the week. So be on the lookout for that. And appreciate everybody for rocking with us and tuning in. If you're not subscribed to the YouTube page, Natty State Sports, make sure that you do that. Follow our written content at nattystatesports.com. But we're going to get out of here. For Scotty Bordelon, it's been Curtis Wilkerson. It's been the Pod at the Palace. We appreciate you guys, and we will see you next time.